What's up guys, it's your boy Dekkster here, and finally all the cards have been revealed. The final dump happened. The final reveal stream just concluded, and there's a lot of cards, so I'm going to go through them rapid fire instead of taking a long time. I'm just going to give my brief thoughts on them. This video is just going to be the most recent dump. I'm considering making a review on cards previous to today, but I might just make other content instead. I'm not really sure yet. But yeah, these are going to be brief thoughts. I'm not going to go in too much depth. Just going to talk about the card, give it my rating, and move on. So we got Whirlwind Tempest. This is an 8-mana 6/6 elemental, and it gives your minions Mega Wind Fury. Mega Wind Fury means you can attack 4 times in one turn. I don't think this thing is going to be played in most decks, except for maybe Shaman, right? Because you can actually cast Wind Fury on one of your targets. I think if you have this guy up, he's probably going to be dealt with relatively easily, and it's usually hard to keep Wind Fury minions on the board in general. But the fact that you can maybe turn 10, have someone like 7 or 8 attack, you slam this bad boy down, you hit one of your dudes with a Wind Fury, and then you can smack your opponent for a lot. If they have 7 attack, they're gonna be able to hit for 28, and if you have 8, you'll be able to attack for 32, so that's pretty nutty, right? So in that sense, it's very niche, very conditional. It can end up making some Trollden clips happen, so I'm gonna give this a 3. We got Daring Escape, a 1-mana rogue spell that returns all friendly minions to your hand. It's pretty insane being able to get all your cards back to your hand. It is your friendly minions, so I guess sometimes you don't want them back, but maybe you get a value trade, or maybe they just had sick battle cries and you want to take them back. You want to be able to play them again. Shadow stepping something is fantastic because you get the minion back to your hand, but it also discounts it by 2. This isn't discounting anything, but it's almost like shadow stepping your entire board, right? Which situationally is great. I think this card is going to see play. I'm going to give it a 4. We got Witch's Brew, a shaman spell here. 2-mana epic card with restore 4 health, repeatable this turn. So you can heal 8 in one turn. You have to do it all in one turn. So it's like a Twinspell, except you can only do it that one turn. We are losing healing rains, so I was worried about Shaman being able to heal, and it seems like this might be the direction we're going with, which is, it's good. 2 mana to heal 4 is okay. 4 mana to heal 8 is fantastic. And now this doesn't have to go to your face. It could go to your minions if, you know, you want to heal one of your taunt minions or something like that. I really like the versatility of this. It's going to feel great to get this from Hagatha as well. I think this is 4 stars. Okay, we got Violet Warden, a 6-mana 4/7. This isn't great. It does have taunt and it has spell damage +1. I can't imagine anywhere you want to play something this slow. I mean, the fact that it has taunt is great. If it didn't have taunt, this would be a 1-star card, but just because it has taunt, I guess I'll give it a 2. It's pretty trash. I don't think you're going to play this anyway. It's just Scrap Hound, 2-mana 2/2 mech for warrior. Pretty cool. Whenever it deals damage, you gain that much armor. So you can play this and then maybe you magnetize it with a Ziliax or a War Gear, and then you're going to be getting a ton of armor. So that's pretty cool. I mean, this will feel okay to throw on turn 2. It's almost like pressing the armor button because it's usually going to deal damage unless it hits something that has a divine shield or gets removed by a spell, which I don't think you'd be too upset about this thing being removed by a spell. And if your opponent doesn't deal with this, you're probably going to get a lot of armor in return, especially if you magnetize it. So I do like this card. I think it will see some play. I'm going to give it a 3. All right, Violet Spellsword, 4-mana 1/6 with the Battlecry, gain 1 attack for each spell in your hand. I think you need at least 3 spells in your hand in order for this thing to be pretty good. Generally, you want to play this on curve, I'd imagine. I don't really like this. I don't like this card. I don't think it's going to see play. I'm going to give it a 2. Underbelly Ooze, 7-mana 3/5. After this minion survives damage, summon a copy of it. So if it survives 1 tick of damage, you're going to have a 7 mana and 2 3/4s. So 7 mana 6/8, which is still not that great. You kind of got to take damage one more time, right? So you need at least 2 spins to make this thing worth. I think it's trash. I'm going to give it a 1 star. I don't think it sees any play at all. Tunnel Blaster, 7-mana 3/7 with taunt, and the Death Rite will deal 3 damage to all minions. Seems pretty slow. Maybe if you're really hurting for some AoE, you might want to play this. I guess Hunter doesn't have a lot of AoE right now. Maybe end up trying this there. Anywhere where you can just trigger a death rattle, this is gonna shine. But in general, it seems pretty expensive. I'm gonna give this 3 stars. All right, Sweeping Strikes. 2-mana warrior spell here. Give a minion, also damages minions next to whomever this attacks. So it's kind of like Cave Hydra. Really like this effect. I'm really happy that they printed this card. Almost turns any of your minions into a threat. Your opponent's gonna think, oh, maybe I have to remove this card because they could Sweeping Strikes it and clear my board. I like it a lot. Adding to the arsenal of warrior AoE, I'm a big fan. I like this. I think it's gonna see play. I'm gonna give it a 4 stars. All right, we got Recurring Villain. 5 mana, 3/6 with the death rattle. If this minion has 4 or more attack, resummon it. This art is fantastic, and do I actually think this is gonna see play? I don't think so. I don't think this is gonna be too viable. I mean, obviously you can buff this up with some things, but we're losing veteran. You gotta buff it up through other means. I guess you could like Direwolf Alpha and trade this in. I think the most nutty thing is Undertaker. If you get this death rattle on Undertaker, it's gonna constantly resummon itself. So I guess if you're running an Undertaker deck, you're probably gonna wanna mess around with this. That'd be a lot of fun. So I'm gonna give this 3 stars. We got a 2-mana 3/2 here, Spellbook Binder. With the Battlecry, if you have spell damage, draw a card. So you need to have spell damage buff, which seems kind of hard to pull off by turn 2. There's not a lot of 1-mana cards that give spell damage. And if you don't get the Battlecry off of this thing, I'd rather have a 2/3 stat line than a 3/2. I think this effect is just too difficult to pull off, so I'm gonna give it 2 stars. All right, we got Portal, Overfiend, 6 mana, 5/6 demon, neutral demon. With Battlecry, shuffle 3 portals into your deck. When drawn, summon a 2/2 demon with Rush. Now, I'm personally not good at drawing things that you've shuffled into your deck, like spiders from Faldori, and the fact that these are just gonna come out randomly, it doesn't really appeal to me. They might come out in a turn where you really don't want it. If you do end up playing this thing, you're gonna want a deck that has a ton of draw. I guess you can maybe try it in like a Tempo Rogue deck that's also running Myras. That might be interesting, but in general, I don't think this is gonna see too much play. I will give it a 3 though, because I do think it has potential. Then we got Portal Keeper, a 4 mana 5/2. Same effect of shuffling 3 portals into your deck. When drawn, summon a 2/2 demon with Rush. This just seems very mediocre. I'd rather run that previous card. The stat line here is just so easy to kill this bad boy. If you're gonna run one of these, I imagine it's gonna be the Overfiend and not the Portal Keeper. So I'm gonna give the Portal Keeper a 2 stars. Hunting Party, 5 mana, copy all beasts in your hand. This does not seem very great. Seems very slow, very expensive. 5 mana for that effect. This is not gonna see play. I'm gonna give this 2 stars. Heroic Innkeeper, 8 mana 4/4 with Taunt and the Battlecry, gain +2/+2 for each other friendly minion. So in order to make this kind of worth its mana cost, you need to have at least 2 dudes on board. And then it becomes like a Lich King without the fantastic generating card effect. But if you do have a ton of dudes on board, maybe you got a bunch of imps out there, slam this down with 3 imps. It's an 8 mana 10/10. That's not bad. With 4 imps, 8 mana 12/12, pretty solid, but I think a bit too conditional. I'm gonna give it a 2. Hench Clan Sneak, 3 mana 3/3 with Stealth. Now these guys, the stealth, it could be very sneaky, but I don't think you actually want to run this. Like Jungle Panther doesn't see too much play. And I like that stat line a bit more for something with stealth. It's not like absolutely terrible. I just don't see anywhere you would actually run this. You're not gonna feel bad if this comes out of like an evolve or a random card generation effect, but you're not gonna actually wanna run this in your deck, right? I'm gonna give it a 2. All right, we got Flight Master, 3 mana 3/4 with the Battlecry, summon a 2/2 Griffin for each player. So it's kind of like getting a 3 mana 5/6, right? Except your opponent also gets 2/2 worth of stats. Unless you have a way to immediately deal with that 2/2, seems pretty bad. I don't think anybody's gonna actually run this thing. I'm gonna give this a, oh God, is it a 1? Is it a 1? I'm gonna give it a 2. Okay, we got Faceless Rager, really interesting card here. Best Rager I think we've ever seen. 3 mana, 5/1 with the Battlecry, copy a friendly minion's health. This card seems really strong. If you manage to put out a 2 mana minion that has a pretty high health, first thing that comes to mind is Ancient Watcher. That might be like best case. It does seem like Ancient Watcher is gonna come back into the meta, and I imagine if you're playing an Ancient Watcher deck, you're probably gonna want these guys, because 3 mana 5/5s, that's very good. If it copies something with 4 health, really solid 3 mana 5/4. And if it copies something with 3 health, a 3 mana 5/3 is also no joke. So as long as you're copying something that has 3 health, which is a lot of 2 mana minions, you're going to be able to play this thing on curve. It's going to be beautiful. And then imagine just hitting something with a lot more health, maybe a Twilight Drake or a Witchwood Grizzly or something like that. This can have a ton of health. For 3 mana, you're usually going to get a good bang for your buck. I'm going to give this 4 stars. All right, we got this Eccentric Scribe, 6 mana, 6/4 with the Death Rattle, summon 4 Vengeful Scrolls. I imagine these are just 1/1s. It doesn't seem that great. I mean, I guess you're kind of paying 6 mana for a 10/8, which makes it sound a lot better. And you can even buff these scrolls with like a Bloodlust, or if you're playing like a token druid, I guess you can buff them through, you know, Power of the Wild and stuff like that. But do you actually want to run this card? I don't think so. But I guess if you end up looking at it, it's almost like Savannah Highmane, which is a 6 mana 6/5, which people say is super, super good. And it is. It's very, very good. Summoning 2/2/2 hyenas, which this is summoning 4 1/1 scrolls. So you're getting the same amount of value, same amount of stats on the board. You're just losing 1 health. So if Highmane was a 6/4, would you say it's trash? I don't know. I'm almost feeling like I'm sleeping on this card. I do think it warrants experimentation. It just seems like 4 health is kind of a big deal, or you know, it's just not good. 4 health is bad. So I'm gonna give this a 3. If this was a 6 mana 6/5, I think it'd almost be like 4 to 5 stars. Maybe 4.5. But yeah, messing around with it with a druid deck, a token druid, maybe even a Zoolock, it might be interesting. But I guess another big perk of Savannah Highmane is the fact that it is a beast, and so are the hyenas. All right, Darkest Hour, 6 mana card here. Warlock spell. Destroy all friendly minions. For each one, summon a random minion from your deck. I mean, I could see this thing getting pretty nutty. If you do play Rafam and change all your cards into legendaries, and then you play Rafam's Scheme, which will summon a bunch of imps, and then you just destroy those imps with the Darkest Hour, turn them all into random legendaries, kind of like the Stormbringer. That could make some sick Trollden clips, but is it actually a viable strategy? That I'm not sure about. If you're not going with the Rafam shenanigans and you're just trying to pull out, I don't know, some 3 mana cards from your deck, I guess you got to destroy at least like 3 imps or 4 imps in order to make this worth its mana cost. I mean, there are a lot of cards that generate a lot of tokens, kind of like the new Hench Clan Witch or whatever card that summons the 2 amalgams. Like playing that in this, it could be okay. But I don't know if it actually warrants running this. I feel like your deck would have to be built around this. I do think it warrants experimentation. I'm going to give it a 3. All right, we got Dalaran Crusader, a 5 mana 5/4 with Divine Shield. This seems like pack filler. Divine Shield is great. It can absorb an attack, right? But do you really want to run a 5 mana 5/4? I don't think so. I don't think you're ever running this thing. I'm going to give this a 2. That was an easy one. There's not much to say about that. All right, Burly Shovel Fist, 9 mana 9/9 with Rush. I mean, that's a lot of stats. It's also just very expensive. And I guess it just seems a little bit too expensive. If there was a way to pull Rush minions out of your hand or like tutor them out of your deck, that'd be great. The only place I could see this being used is something like a Eureka Shaman, where you can play Eureka and copy this big dude. Like, that'd be some great value. So if there is a Eureka Shaman archetype, I don't see why you wouldn't want to run this. This had taunt, it'd just be nutty. But because it's so situational, I'm gonna give this a 2. All right, Azurite Elemental, 5 mana 2/7. At the start of your turn, gain spell damage +2. So this does not have 2 spell damage. As soon as you play it, it's going to take a turn, and then you'll finally get the spell damage. If it's around for 2 turns, 4 spell damage. 3 turns, 6 spell damage. It's going to be dealt with, I'm sure, by then. But if your opponent, for some reason, can't deal with it, I mean, this thing can get infinite spell damage, and then you can just destroy your opponent with like a Frostbolt or something, which I'm sure we're going to see some more Trollden clips of that. But I don't think you actually want to play this. Would you really want to play a 5 mana 2/7 with +2 spell damage? I don't think so. I'm going to give this a 2. Lots of 2s. All right, Arcane Servant, 2 mana 2/3. This is an elemental with the River Crocolisk body. So I like that it's been added to the game. It's an okay elemental. Sometimes people run River Crocolisk just because it was a beast. It just had the beast tag. This has the elemental tech, but I think we got a decent amount of elementals in the game. I don't think you actually want to run this guy, so I'm going to give him 2 stars as well. Arcane Fletcher, a 4 mana 3/3. Whenever you play a 1-cost minion, draw a spell from your deck. Ooh, this is really, really expensive, and the stats are terrible. If it was a 4 mana 4/4, maybe. But a 4 mana 3/3, let's say you're playing it with like a Spring Paw, maybe. You don't really want to run that many 1-cost minions, and there's not that many great 1-cost minions anymore. We got the Shimmerfly and the Spring Paws. Maybe Crystallizer. But let's say you actually do run those, and you run this. You play it on 4 mana. On curve, it's gonna do nothing. It's gonna die. If it does stick around, the next turn, you can go off. That's gonna be great. It's kind of like an auctioneer in that sense. But your opponent's probably gonna have a way to deal with this. And you're probably going to want to wait to play this until after turn 4. You played on turn 5 with 1 Spring Paw. It ends up being, you know, you're paying 5 mana. You're getting 4/4 worth of stats. And you're drawing 1 card, which seems okay, right? Pretty decent. It's like Azure Drake, but you're not getting the spell damage. So if you play it on turn 6 with Spring Paw and the Lynx, I guess it's kind of okay. But I think it's just I think it's just not good. It's too expensive. The stats are terrible. It's not going to stick around for more than 1 turn. I'm going to give it a 2. All right, now we're cooking. We got Ursatron, a 3 mana 3/3 mech for Hunter. Mech Hunter, it's gonna be a thing. I'm so excited. With the Death Rattle, draw a mech from your deck. This is so good because Hunter struggles with draw. So the fact that you could draw with this is huge. And then there's activators for specifically your mechs through like Fireworks tech. It's so cool, man. I love this card. I think it really makes the Mech Hunter go from plausible to most likely going to be a thing. I'm gonna give this a solid 4. I'm gonna make a Mech Hunter. This is gonna be in it. All right, we got one of the most OP cards I've ever seen in my life. The Toxfin, a 1 mana 1/2 Murloc. With the Battlecry, give a friendly Murloc poisonous. Now we'll get around to the other Murloc cards later. But oh my god, there's so many good Murlocs. Murlocs, they're definitely coming back. They're gonna be a thing. People are gonna hate them. Like right now, they're a meme. You play a Murloc deck, it's funny. But I think in 3 months, maybe Murlocs are gonna be the new Odd Paladins. It seems really easy to keep a ton of Murlocs on the board. Maybe they're just the 1/1s, but you don't care because you give them poison and you get through your opponent's Witchwood Grizzly. This is nuts. If you're running a Murloc deck, you're gonna play this, just generating this off of all the random Murloc generation cards. It's gonna be huge. I'm gonna give this 5 stars. All right, Safeguard, 6 mana 4/5 mech with taunt, and the Death Rattle, summon a 0/5 vault safe with taunt. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a mech. It's a 0/5 mech that has taunt. Obviously, this would have been much better as a 6 mana 4/10 because the 0/5 doesn't actually do much damage. But if you're trying to be able to magnetize onto something, this could be pretty good. Maybe you're actually going to want to run it in Mech Hunter or maybe in Warrior. Just being able to throw a Zilliax onto one of these, super solid. Maybe throw a Zilliax on the 4/5, maybe throw it on the 0/5. Just in general, it's gonna slow down your opponent a lot. That's a lot of health to chew through. I think this card is gonna see some play, some experimentation, and I think it's rather good. I'm gonna give it a 4. All right, we got Mutate, 0 mana Shaman. Everyone was real upset. Evolve was leaving, felt bad. Where's Evolve Shaman? We were all hoping for a great Evolve card because we love the Evolve mechanic. And here it is. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. I mean, it is adorable. 0 mana, transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more. So you only get to pull this off once. You can get it back with your Krogwa though, so that's pretty cool. But I don't think you're actually running this in your deck. Getting it from one of the many random Shaman spells that you will be getting will not feel bad. But running it in your deck, I don't think so. It's just so bad if you like you're top decking and this is what you get. It just seems pretty awful. You don't want it in your mulligan. It's just, I'm gonna give it a 2, but I love it. All right, Rapid Fire, a Hunter 1 mana Twinspell with deal 1 damage. So essentially you get 2 of these, right? You could deal 1 damage twice. So 2 mana, deal 1 damage to 2 things, which doesn't seem great. But if you have spell damage, this thing can maybe get out of hand. So we saw that other Hunter legendary card, the one with the weapon that gives you the +2 spell damage. That with a Rapid Fire. Now it becomes pretty serious, right? This can also go on your opponent's face, and it can be recast with Zul'jin. Does it actually warrant running this in a Spell Hunter deck. I'm not sure about that, but I do think it will see experimentation, and it's gonna be a good time. I'm gonna give this a 3. Oh my god, another broken card. We got a 2-mana 2/3 Underbelly Angler, another insanely good Murloc. After you play a Murloc, add a random Murloc to your hand. Now maybe in the final reveal stream, this deck just appeared a bit too strong, and this thing came across so OP. Great stat line, 2-mana 2/3. Got that Crocolisk bod, and then you usually have fairly cheap Murlocs to flood the board with, which are gonna give you more Murlocs to flood the board with. Your opponent doesn't deal with this thing, or you just hold it on till a little bit later and you get like 3 random Murlocs. This thing is nuts, man. Obviously, if you're playing a Murloc Shaman, which I think it seems like it's gonna be one of the best Shaman decks right now, you're putting this thing in there. This is 5 stars. Oh my god, like the only 5 stars I've given have been Murlocs. This is quite terrifying. Okay, Soul of the Murloc. 2 mana, kind of like Soul of the Forest. Soul of the Murloc. Give your minions Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Murloc. Now, if you're playing a Murloc deck, you're probably gonna run this. 1/1 Murlocs are not huge, but there are ways to kind of buff them up, like with your Oracle, with your War Leader, with your Seer. And the fact that this can be cast on any minions you have on your board. It'll hit your totems, turn your totem into a 1/1. Then the next turn, you slam down your War Leader, slam down a Seer, destroy your opponent. Pretty good. Pretty sure you run this in your Murloc. And I think Murloc's gonna be a thing. So I think you're gonna see a lot of this. So I'm gonna give it a 4. All right, we got Scargill. Oh my god, so many great Murlocs. 4 mana 4/4. Your Murlocs cost 1. Okay stat line. Amazing effect. Like if you manage to play this on 4 and it sticks, which it probably won't, turn 5 is gonna be very, very scary for your opponent. If you play this and then you play the Angler, then you play like a War Leader or a Seer, then you're just gonna be able to play 3 more dudes on that same turn. That's nuts. If you're playing a Murloc Shaman, you're gonna play this card. I'm gonna give this one a 5. Again, 3 5-star Murlocs. What the heck? Okay, Blessing of Ancients. 3 mana Twinspell for Druid. Give your minions +1/+1. So one of the archetypes I'm most excited about for this expansion is some flavor of token Druid, like the old school aggro token Druid, because that seems like the direction they're going, and this has reinforced that feeling that I have, and I will be running this. The Mark of the Lotus, I think it was, the 1 mana give your minions +1/+1 was so broken. It was so good. Now this is 3 mana, but you do get a second one, and you're probably just gonna want to play this later on into the game. If this was 2 mana, it'd just be way OP. So at 3 mana, it feels about right. Feels balanced, but feels good. I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I think it really strengthens the Token Druid archetype, and I think Token Druid's gonna be a thing. All right, Mysterious Blade, 2 mana 2/2 with the Battlecry. If you control a secret, gain +1 attack. This is a Paladin weapon card, and it's a 2 mana 3/2. That seems a bit broken. That should probably be nerfed, right? My god, 2 mana 3/2s are just so strong, because so many minions have 3 health. 2 mana minions, usually around 3 health, right? You get to slap them and just kill whatever. Then the next turn you can slap another thing and kill that. Seems relatively easy to play a secret on 1, seeing that they're 1 mana. So you can play these for 2 mana. It just curves beautifully. So it seems like Secret Paladin is going to be one of the better Paladin decks, and I think you're gonna wanna run this in there. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. It's a strong 4 though. All right, we got Sunreaver Spy, a 2 mana 2/3 with the Battlecry. If you control a secret, gain 1/1. This might as well be a Paladin card, really, right? I don't think you're gonna want to run this in Hunter. You're probably not gonna want to run it in Mage. The reason why it's so strong in Paladin specifically is because Paladin is 1 mana secrets. So you play a secret on turn 1. Turn 2, you either go Mysterious Blade, or you play this bad boy, which is a 2 mana 3/4. That is nuts. That is so good. Oh my god, this card is amazing. This card is so good. I mean, and if you don't have a secret, it's really not that bad to play a 2 mana 2/3, depending on your situation. I'm gonna give this 5 stars. The first 5 stars, that's non-Murloc. Sunreaver Warmage, 5 mana 4/4 with the Battlecry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, deal 4 damage. That's very good. I like this card quite a bit. It wasn't properly showcased in the deck reveal stream, because these just were played for tempo as a 5 mana 4/4. But if you're holding a spell that costs 5 more, that 4 damage is just, it's a big swing. It's really big. Can almost kind of be seen like a 5 mana 4/4 with Divine Shield Rush in that sense, because you're just gonna do 4 damage to something and this will stay a 4/4. Really solid, huge tempo, but it does have that restriction where you need spells that cost 5 or more. So sometimes it'll just be a 5 mana 4/4. But overall, this card is very strong, and I'm gonna give it a 4. All right, we got Kirantor Tricaster, 4 mana 3/3 mage card with spell damage +3. Your spells cost 1 more. I really like the design of this. I think it's It's kind of cool. This turns your arcane explosions into 2 mana flame strikes. Turns your arcane missiles into 2 mana, do 6 damage. Your fireballs are rather large and scary, and I like this. I think it warrants experimentation. I don't think it's like a staple. I'm gonna give it a 3. All right, we got Jumbo Imp, 10 mana, 8/8 demon for Warlock. Now it does seem like Warlock's leaning towards a Imp generation zoo sort of build direction, and this is kind of like Corridor Creeper, and I think we've all learned to not sleep on cards like Corridor Creeper. This can be, probably won't be, but it can be a 0 mana 8/8, which is absolutely bonkers, totally insane. If you're running a lot of Imp generation, you're gonna wanna run this Jumbo Imp Creeper. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. All right, Mad Summoner, 6 mana, 4/4 demon, neutral demon with the Battlecry, fill each player's board with 1/1 imp. So your opponent will get 7 1/1 imps possibly, and you're gonna get a 4/4 and 6 1/1 imps. Now you won't be able to slam a Sea Giant down immediately after this because you won't have the space, but if you can pop off one of your boys, you can play a Sea Giant. Now this will help your Jumbo Imp quite a bit, but does that warrant running this? I don't think so. Seems pretty meh, but I do think it warrants experimentation. I'm gonna give it a 3. All right, we got Magic Carpet, a 3 mana 1/6 with after you play a 1-cost minion, give it +1 attack and rush. How many 1-cost minions are you actually going to run? They're really just not that great right now. And keep in mind this says when you play a minion, not after one is summoned. So like summoning all those imps, they're not gonna get the rush. They're not gonna get the attack. But playing this on like a crystallizer, it becomes a 1 mana 2/3, which is pretty good. Spring Paws don't get too much value because they already have the rush, but they do become 2/1s. I just don't see a deck you actually want to run this thing in, seeing as there's not many great 1-cost cards anymore. Really cool card, great flavor, but I don't think it's gonna see play. I'm gonna give it a 2. We got Magic Dart Frog, a 2 mana 1/3 mage beast, where after you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to a random enemy minion. So this is better if you run a lot of cheap spells, which I'm not sure you actually want to do in mage. I mean, if you're playing against a lot of tokeny decks, like the current Odd Paladin, which I know is rotating, this would be pretty sick, right? The 1/3 bod trades into those 1 health minions, plus you can just cast some spells and it'll kill some things. Kind of reminiscent of Knife Juggler, although you have to cast spells instead of playing dudes. I think I like Knife Juggler a bit better, but obviously that's for minion-based decks and this is for a spell-based deck. I'm not a big fan. I'm gonna give this 2 stars. Mana Reservoir, a 2 mana 0/6. It is an elemental. It has spell damage +1. Do you ever actually want to run this thing? I mean, that's a lot of stats for 2 mana, but it seems pretty bad to me. There is that other card that can only attack if you have spell damage, so maybe this is like the way to go about it, but I think this is rather trash. I'm gonna give it a 1. All right, Inferno, 3 mana warlock spell, give your demons +1 attack, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Seems really good. Does a little clearing to your opponent's side and buffs up all your demons. It does seem once again like warlocks going in a demon zoo sort of direction, and you're definitely gonna want to give those guys +1 attack. So I really like Inferno, and if there is a demon zoo warlock, I imagine you're gonna want to play this thing. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. All right, Proud Defender, 4 mana 2/6. Taunt and has +2 attack while you have no other minions. Kinda similar to Tar Creeper, RIP, but Tar Creeper didn't have as big of a restriction where you have to have no other minions. But on the same front, if you have no other minions, this is a 4 mana 4/6 with Taunt. So there are pros and cons. Another pro of Tar Creepers, you could play it on 3. This is 4 mana, so you gotta wait 1 more turn. But I do think this is gonna be played in a lot of decks. I think it's a great tech choice against aggro, although there might be better choices aside from this. I'm gonna give this a 4. All right, Soldier of Fortune, a 4 mana 5/6. Wow, beautiful stat line. But whenever this minion attacks, give your opponent a coin. So you play this, no immediate drawback. I mean, I guess you could silence it, but does it warrant a silence? Maybe in sort of like the Silence Priest, right? There's a couple more cards we'll see where silencing him seems totally fine, and playing this immediately followed by your opponent kind of ignoring it because they want the coins, and then you silencing it, maybe making a copy of it, it's going to be pretty huge. So I don't think this is really going to be played in any deck that isn't running like the silence build. So obviously Priest might be okay. I almost gave this a 1, but seeing all these silence cards, seeing how silence Priest is probably going to be a thing, I'm going to give this a 2. Doesn't seem great, but it's not a 1. All right, Unsleeping Soul, 4 mana Priest card. Silence a friendly minion, then summon a copy of it. Okay, that's naughty, right? So hitting it on Ancient Watcher, you get an extra 4/5, plus you silence him, turning him into, you know, I guess an Ancient Watcher that can attack. So that's very good. Hitting this on a Soldier of Fortune would be okay. So I like this card a lot. It's pretty dang good. I'm gonna give this a 4. All right, we got Waggle Pick, a 4 mana 4/2 rogue card. It's a weapon. It's a weapon with the Death Rattle. Return a random friendly minion to your hand. It costs 2 less. So main thing I think of is True Silver Champion. It's been fantastic for Paladin. 4 mana 4/2 weapon that restores 2 before you hit every turn. So is that why True Silver is run? Is it really run just for the heal? I mean, it helps quite a bit. Would you run True Silver if it didn't heal you? Maybe. Would you run Waggle Pick? I think so. Rogue does kind of identify with those strong battle cries. Maybe this just hits like an SI7 agent, or maybe it hits like a pogo hopper. There is a drawback that it's a random friendly minion, so you could end up hitting something you don't want to return, but I guess in that situation, you just try to not break your weapon. I think this has a lot of potential, and I'm probably gonna try it out in most of my rogue builds, so I'm gonna give it a 4. All right, we got Arcane Watcher, a 3 mana 5/6 that can't attack unless you have spell damage. So maybe that fountain thing might come into play if you want to run this, but it doesn't really warrant running it anyways. But you know what else is pretty sick? Just silencing this guy. So maybe in that Priest deck that we're kind of theorizing, right? Might be pretty sick with an Ancient Watcher, some Arcane Watchers. So in anything aside from Priest, I think it's probably trash. But in Priest, in the archetype I'm kind of thinking of in my head, I'm gonna give this a solid 3. Hench Clan Shade Quill, a 4 mana 4/7. My god, that stat line. With a Death Rattle, restore 5 health to the enemy hero. This is so good. Like in tempo builds, if there is like a tempo priest, this is totally fine to run, right? And control, it's also fine because you don't care about your opponent healing, really. And then also you can actually turn that Death Rattle into a pro. If you know this is gonna die, you can play the Akanai Phantasm, and then you slap this dude in, and it's like mind blasting your opponent's face. But holy crap, this stat line is just bonkers. I really like this card. I'm tempted to almost give it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 4. Convincing Infiltrator, 5 mana 2/6 with taunt and Death Rattle to destroy a random enemy minion. Obviously, strong relation to Obsidian Statue, which was an 8 mana 4/8 with taunt and Death Rattle to destroy a random enemy minion, but it did have lifesteal, which was kind of a big deal. But that Death Rattle was so annoying to play around. You got to trade into it, which kills some of your minions, and then the Death Rattle also kills some of your opponent's minions. Plus, you can res this thing. This is really nice. It's gonna slow down your opponent a lot, and usually that's something you want to do in Priest. Oh my god, I'm leaning towards a 5, guys. I'm leaning towards a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5. I do think you run this in most Priest decks. It's huge. All right, Dalaran Librarian, a 2 mana 2/3. Of course, it's got that solid croc bod, but it's also got the Battlecry, silence adjacent minions, which generally you don't want to do unless maybe your minion's been frozen for some reason. But I think this might as well be a Priest card. You want to silence your Watchers, right? Maybe you silence your Ancient Watcher, maybe you silence your Arcane Watcher, and then you just start going to town. So I do think there's going to be a Silence Priest deck, and I do think this goes in it. I'm going to give this a 4 because I think you're going to see a lot of this guy. We got Potion Vendor, 1 mana 1/1. This is not a Priest card. This is neutral. With the Battlecry, restore 2 health to all friendly characters. That includes yourself, your own face. Oh my god, this is huge. In the reveal stream, this thing moved some heavy weight, man. But I think in general, this is great because we're losing other heal stuff. We're losing Fungal Enchanter, which this just seems like a much better version of Fungal Enchanter. Oh my god, this thing is nuts. Maybe in the token Heal Druid, because you do want to do some healing. This is going to be in there as well. I think in most aggro decks, you're going to want to play this because you can get some value trades, heal your dudes back up. Oh my, this is nuts. This is going to see a lot of play. Plus, also taking into consideration there's not a lot of great 1-drops. I mean, obviously, you don't want to play this on 1. Obviously, you don't want to play this on turn 1. But it's just so much value. So much value. I'm going to give this a 5. This is a really good card. All right, and that's actually it. That's all the cards that were revealed today and my brief thoughts on them. There weren't that many ones, were there? There are ones out there. I just feel like today I just feel like these recent reveals were actually very, very good. The power level of this set seems high, which kind of scares me. I thought the power level would be a bit weaker. And also they kind of surprised us. We were seeing all these slow cards. I was thinking it's just gonna be control decks. There's gonna be no aggro. And then today they just hit us with all these aggro cards. So that's pretty cool, but maybe a bit worrisome. But I hope you guys enjoyed these reviews. Don't forget to follow my Twitch if you're not following there yet. Don't forget to upvote this video if you enjoyed it. Good luck on ladder and stay hydrated.